Hello and welcome to How to Get a 20% Boost in Warehouse Picking in 3 Months. Implement voice-directed picking or robotics now without heartache. My name is Bob Treblecock. I'm the executive editor of Modern Materials Handling, and I'll be your moderator for this event, which is being brought to you by our friends at Omnis. Joining me today are Barry Isperner and Larry Sweeney. Barry is Vice President of Marketing and Business Development for Omnis, and Larry is a Senior Director of Business Development at Honeywell Voice Solutions. We're really looking forward to hearing from them. But before we get started, a few housekeeping items. Now, if you haven't done so already, I'd like to remind you that attendees are invited to download today's presentation. Just click on the resource icon on your screen. Also, please take a moment to complete the resources survey at the end. Last, remember that this is an interactive event. Feel free to submit questions as you listen to the webcast. If we don't get to all of your questions, we'll forward them to Barry and to Larry later. And now to today's webcast. Adding new technology to your warehouse or DC operations used to mean a lengthy and costly IT project. The most problematic area was typically modifying, upgrading, and interconnecting your WMS or ERP systems to the server controlling the new technology. Conveyor systems, voice-directed technology, and robotics all required such connection. In today's presentation, Barry and Larry are going to share with you a new methodology to set up and manage these links quickly and without modifying or upgrading your WMS or ERP platform. You can roll it out in just a few weeks without opening a major IT project or modifying your enterprise system. So let's get started. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Barry.
Well, thank you, Bob. We think our comments here are going to be helpful to our listeners today as they continue to cope with unprecedented challenges in supply chain operations. We're going to discuss some of the issues many of you are facing today and get ready to tackle tomorrow. We'll explain how new technology can immediately give you a supply chain boost in throughput today and how Omnis and Honeywell can get you ready for what's next. We'll then open it up for questions from all of you. My name is Barry Isperner, and I lead marketing, product management, and business development for Omnis. I've worked in similar roles at Symbol Technologies, then Motorola, then Zebra Technologies, after 2 acquisitions along the way. And I've also walked many miles in warehouses around the world, understanding customer challenges and needs, and then helping develop solutions for those challenges. Larry Sweeney, who's joining me, is from Honeywell Voice Solutions. Larry founded the company Vocalect and ran that firm for years before Intermec and then Honeywell, via acquisition, acquired that business. Larry is Honeywell's Senior Director of Global Business Consulting today. Welcome, Larry. You came here today because you likely have a problem. You've got labor shortages, you can't hire fast enough, you can't retain people, you can't afford lengthy training cycles. Maybe you've got other workforce challenges like seasonal workers that are also cause a challenge in training. You've got supply chain disruptions. Products are late, or maybe you now have international disruptions to live with. If you're a retailer, you may be struggling with profitability or dealing with buy online, pick up in store challenges. And then we're all affected by the Amazon effect, we call it. Everybody expects 2-day shipping or they're looking for another vendor. Many of you may be considering new technologies to help. You're reimagining workflows, slotting schemes, you're thinking about new facility construction, or rebalancing across your distribution centers. Maybe you're introducing new automated conveyance systems. Maybe it's robotics. That's a huge area of investment and experimentation right now. And many of you will be attending Modex in a few days looking for vendors of such gear. Maybe it's current or next generation wearable technology you're considering. Augmented reality headsets, ring scanners, smart wearable computers of some type. New options are introduced each month in this space. As you'll learn in a moment, Omnis supports implementation of all of these technologies. But first, one tried and true technology that's used in many of the largest distribution centers on the planet is voice-directed technology. This system typically gives an immediate throughput boost and can be implemented today. And one of the world's experts on this technology is Larry Sweeney. Larry, tell us more about voice-directed warehousing, please.
Hey, thank you, Barry. Thanks very much for that wonderful introduction. I really appreciate that. So I'm starting at a point where I just want to make sure we're all level set and we understand the concept of how voice works. Just so everyone knows, of course, voice devices communicate wirelessly to a warehouse management system backend. They receive data from that warehouse management system just like any RF handheld or scanning device might receive it. It translates that data into spoken commands, and person then in their headset hears those commands, speaks back, or alternatively may scan a barcode label or read an RFID tag or such, and then that spoken or captured data is transmitted back to the warehouse management system and validated. Basically, it uses all of that same technology and infrastructure that's already in place in distribution centers when we have the RF scanning or RF handheld devices. Now, what a person might hear in their headset, for instance, is to go to a particular aisle. They acknowledge that maybe by saying a word like ready. They're then directed to a pick location. In this case, an example, it's 414. When they get to that location, on the location itself, in addition to the label that's showing the location, there's also another label that is a check digit. And the check digit can be a 2-digit number, maybe a 3-digit number. It's set up to be not unique for that site, but to be an indicator that they're at that right location. So they have to say the proper check digit. And then they're given the pick instruction. In this case, pick 2. And the user typically validates and verifies that quantity of 2 when they actually pick the item. So we maintain a level of accuracy based on check digits, as well as a level of accuracy on quantity by speaking that quantity back to the system. Now, why would someone buy a system like this? And, you know, you can look at this slide that's on the screen right now and say, yeah, there's a lot of really interesting information there, like, you know, average productivity gains and, you know, decrease in pick errors and things like that. But you know what? It really comes down to, and in each individual case, we get to know our customers. Almasons does an awesome job of doing that. And together, we strive to understand our customers' strategic business challenge. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that every business has a lofty goal or a set of goals that they're going after. If you're a retailer, it might be growth. So for instance, today, you know, we might have a retailer that has 350 stores, and in 2 years, they have a plan to go to 500 stores. Well, how do they make that transition of adding 150 stores over 2 years? That is a strategic business challenge. If they're a 3PL or a wholesaler, typically in their world, it's a very competitive environment, and they're fighting to maintain and keep their existing customers, and at the same time, grow their customer base. That is a strategic business challenge. In some cases, you know, internationally, we have customers who are undergoing new government regulation. Perhaps a traceability piece of legislation has just been passed for pharmaceuticals in a particular country. Well, every company that is distributing pharmaceuticals in that country now all of a sudden has a strategic business challenge. How do I track those pharmaceuticals through my supply chain? But really, what it really comes down to is taking the things that you're seeing on this slide, like improved productivity, increased accuracy, and so on, and directly relating back to that strategic business challenge, essentially to get more throughput through their distribution operations. So what we'll show you next here is a video, a short video clip, and we call it our 10-pick challenge. And what you'll see is a split screen. On one side of the screen, you'll see a worker using existing technology in their operation today. And on the other side of the screen, you'll see them pick that same assignment, but with voice. And we use this as a very powerful tool for our customers and for our prospects many times to show them and illustrate for their executive management the benefit that they can get by using voice and how it then goes to affect and address their strategic business challenge. So let me start that video now, please.
044 Bravo.
317.
Pick 2.
2.
053 Bravo.
405.
Pick 2.
2.
062 Echo.
986.
Pick 1.
1.
073 Charlie.
591.
Pick 1.
1.
092 Bravo.
269.
Pick 1.
1.
102 Delta.
891.
Pick 1.
1.
113 Alpha.
613.
Pick 1.
1.
122 Bravo.
391.
Pick 2.
2.
122 Delta.
310.
Pick 2.
2.
133 Bravo.
973.
Pick 1.
1.
Deliver to conveyor.
Okay, so what you saw in that video, before I go on to this next slide, what you saw in that video dramatically shows the difference between the time spent using the old technology and the new technology. And really, what was the big difference? Well, the difference was the time spent manipulating the technology. And a number of years ago, a prominent warehouse consulting organization did a study, and they looked at voice and how it compared to other technologies. And they came back and they determined that voice was the only technology that allows the worker to keep their eyes and their attention focused on the product. And what they found as a result of that, because you're not looking at screens, you're not pressing buttons, you're not reading paper and so on, workers were more accurate because errors are made when the worker turns their attention away from the product and to the technology. But what they found is with eyes and focus continually on the product using voice, workers make far less errors and they're much, much more productive. So I hope you saw that in the video, and right now we'll talk a little bit about where is voice headed. So we're talking about three areas here. One is the core technology, the voice core technology. And through the years, we certainly have transitioned from a highly accurate, certainly works extraordinarily well in noise, speaker-dependent technology. And what that means is you had to train it. Your workers had to spend some time training. But now we've transitioned and we offer a speaker-independent version of our recognizer, which allows workers to essentially pick it up and without training, start using it. So we're continuing to push the envelope on speech recognition technology. We're looking certainly at cloud-based offerings down the road, but certainly the focus is on 100%. How do you recognize that worker with very distinct accents and dialects in a very noisy, demanding environment? And that has been our focus since about 1987. And we certainly feel that we have a good lead and a good head up in the market as far as that technology and its ability to perform in the environments where our customers find value. Secondly, host integrations. We have always had a long legacy of providing essentially off-the-shelf integrations to major warehouse management systems out there. so that the cost for our customers to implement voice would be very low, since those integrations already exist. Omnisens adds a completely new and really capable set of integrations for us in this area, and we certainly look to them to be helping us, again, continue to deliver voice in a very affordable form with already pre-built and ready-to-go integrations for our customers. And finally, integrations with new technology. Now, we have had a long history of integrating with barcode, with integrating with RFID scanners, and so on. We see that legacy continue as we begin to see robots, and we also begin to see assisted and augmented reality. We've been testing all of this type of new technology in our facilities for several years now. We feel that we have a really good leg up and a good understanding of optimizing workflows while we integrate at the same time with these newer technologies. So we've kind of through the years, we've done voice, but we look at more of ourselves as the workflow experts, if you will, process experts in distribution center operations, and even beyond that into our maintenance inspection markets and also into retail. So as you move forward, you're going to see certainly an emphasis on voice, but an increased emphasis on integrating with other technologies like robotics and certainly like the augmented and the assisted realities. So thanks for your time today, and Barry, I will turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Larry. That was really interesting. Honeywell and Omnisens work together daily to install these systems. And the Honeywell platform works very, very well, and we've looked at a lot of them. It delivers on the promise of maximizing throughput while maintaining accuracy and all of the benefits that Larry spoke to. But let's also talk about the reality of change. Anytime you're going to introduce a new technology, even one is tried and tested as voice, you're going to end up with challenges, right? Every new technology that comes out has its own server typically, its own software architecture, and you often need to figure out how to integrate their technology with your unique back-end systems, and that's always a big challenge. It typically involves pulling in your IT team, and that means it has to be an IT team that feels it's on their schedule and then it's a priority for them. That can often be a challenge, we've heard from many people running warehouse operations. And then you've got costs and complexity of those integrations. Typically, if you're going to go in and start modifying your WMS or ERP, you need to often hire an outside expert on how to do that. You've got to find them, you got to contract them, you got to fund them. It takes time to plan all those things out. If you're going to start touching a WMS while you're trying to run your operation, you better do some pretty careful planning first. And those kinds of custom integrations that are usually required can be very lengthy. It might require you to upgrade your back-end system before you can use, say, that new robotics platform because they don't support the old SAP platform or other solutions. And then if you've made modifications to your core technology, and then the vendor of that technology, let's say SAP, upgrades their system or puts out security patches, you're sitting there holding your breath wondering, is something going to break? And all that adds to a lot of cost. It can often be prohibitive costs that ruins the ROI, and it basically just means your payback takes forever, it seems. How do we know this? We know this because our founder, Rajesh, who you see there, has spent the last 20 years as one of those high-priced WMS implementation consultants. He worked with SAP, then worked with a number of major systems integrators doing just what I was talking about. He's managed teams of people doing this kind of activity every day at Omnisens because we have to do this integration. So he understands what's required to set these connections up and get everything working. It's common knowledge. Ask anybody that's worked with them, WMS or ERP systems, and they'll tell you, if I have to touch that, that's a big project. We literally, that is Rajesh, wrote a book on the topic. This book is available on Amazon today. It's very well regarded in the area of SAP supply chain management, and it is recommended by SAP. And so we've been there. We've done that. we know what happens if you try to just do the integration directly, even with tools from the vendors, which can often be good, but may also have limitations. And so Rajesh started thinking, that's not a picture of Rajesh, but Rajesh started thinking, got to be a better way to do this. I'm treating every one of these projects like a snowflake, and that is not an efficient way to do this. And so he started thinking, is there a way I can make it more standardized, make it pre-built on how I'm going to connect in to the WMS or ERP or transportation management solution or whatever your three-letter acronym you want to use. He wanted to make sure that whatever he built could adapt to the generation and level of the software. SAP has multiple packages depending on your size and requirements, and then there are multiple generations of each of those. And so he couldn't figure out, how do I deal with 20 different offerings just from SAP? He also wanted to be technology agnostic. He didn't want to worry about what version of Android am I running, or exactly, what's the difference between Locus Robotics and Fetch or someone in terms of the connectivity. He needed to come up with something that could easily be adapted to different vendors, different technologies, heads-up displays, voice systems, robotics, what have you. He wanted to make sure it was a platform that could be certified, specifically so that when a new version of the software comes out, it has already been tested, and therefore you have a sense of their stability there, and you can have confidence that you can upgrade your back-end system without breaking something downstream. He wanted to find a way to do this with minimal IT involvement. In fact, sometimes no IT involvement. And of course, particularly over the last 2 years, he had to figure out how to do this remotely. We couldn't go into many distribution centers in the last 2 years. And so we had to find a way to deploy these things effectively without ever setting foot in the location. And he wanted to do it in a matter of weeks for an ROI benefit. He was used to doing things in months and sometimes, years. And so no one can handle that. The ROI is just horrible if that happens. So a couple of years ago, he created what we now call the Omnis Platform. And let me explain it to you. In the center, the Omnis Platform is the data exchange layer that talks to your enterprise system, your CRM, ERP, what have you. We then have modules that you see around the Omnis Platform here. For example, at the top, we have an advanced voice workflow module that connects to the technology that Honeywell provides to allow it to connect to the WMS and ERP. Let me explain to you in a minute here why you might want to add another layer here instead of just doing it directly. Besides the time and expense, there's flexibility here. This system can also talk to various Android devices in the upper right. So most warehouses don't just have voice. They've got RF guns, they've got devices on forklifts, they've got the voice system in addition. So we provide one platform that can control all of the activity that's going on in the distribution center. We're getting ready for the future releases in augmented reality headsets, next generation wearable, going to be a really exciting area. I put 2023 on here, but we're in the middle of doing that development now. We should have product out late this year, and if you show up at Modex this year, I guarantee you're going to see a very interesting set of new offers in this space. In fact, you can come to our booth, and I'll tell you our booth in just a moment, to learn all about it. In the upper left, you have Easy Bin Management, which is the core module for directing the picking strategy that you have, and I'll explain that in a moment. And then we have robotics connectors. We work with Locus today, and we're adding more to the fold. We have conveyor systems. We've developed solutions for just-in-time manufacturing replenishment activities. And then we've got new solutions coming out for managing trucks in the yard and loading of vehicles, small parcel, etc. On the bottom right, you see workforce management and analytics. If you look at what people are asking for there, everyone's looking for labor management and analytics systems that can present detailed views of what every worker is spending, how they're spending their time in the warehouse. These reports highlight critical information such as productive and non-productive utilization, idle time, break time, scan boxes, warehouse exceptions such as short picks and zero stock. And our dashboards provide summarized reports that allow managers and supervisors to make quick, proactive decisions. Let me give you an example of how this technology is deployed and the benefits that it gives you. I'll give you one short case study. I'll hit a few high points. If you want to learn more about this, I'll tell you how to get in touch with us at the end of the session here. So this is a national dairy manufacturer and distributor, and they had a problem. They had a very wide range of customers, a lot of different product types, and a lot of unique customer demands that were making it very difficult for them to plan and direct their picking operation. They were spending a lot of time up front with supervisors trying to optimize picking strategies, trying to work out loading algorithms for the vehicles for delivery from the DSD application, direct store delivery. The supervisors needed a much faster way to optimize picking to support that. And I'll just give you one little example here. I mean, the typical truck might have 20 stops that day. Maybe it's going to go to a Costco and has a large bulk order to deliver there. Or maybe it's going to go to a handful or 10 or 15 individual stores. And some of those stores might be grouped inside of a mall. Now, they had to come up with a picking strategy to get the right product in the right delivery tote, and that's complex enough. But then they had to start considering loading and the delivery sequence of the truck itself. So if your first delivery is to Costco and they're buying in huge bulk volumes, say gallons of jugs of milk, I mean, that literally weighs hundreds and hundreds of pounds. That you literally can't just load that at the back end of the truck because that's your first stop. It can cause balance and drivability challenges. So you've got to think about picking as you're loading concurrently so that the loading strategy works for that vehicle. For the mall, your picker may be directed to pick for a group of stores as a group. They may need the system to understand how to aggregate those stops, aggregate the picking strategy, because the 6 or 7 stores inside the mall typically are looking for the same product. If you just tried to pick them individually and fill their totes individually, your pickers would be doing a lot of rework, a lot of walking through the same aisles, and that just isn't efficient. And so the Omnis platform comes with pre-built 19 sorting and picking methodologies in that easy bin management module to accommodate all the unique ways that a DSD customer might need to respond. And the result was a much more efficient picking strategy. It minimized wasted travel through the racks, and it accommodated the load optimization planning with a faster, more flexible, and responsive model. It could easily change to the day of the week, the routes that were being fulfilled, the customer types, and many times they were starting to encounter new customer demands. Customers who wanted, for example, to require that all the food products in a tote be segregated from the related dry products in another tote. Some customers were concerned about weight balancing in the totes, and they wanted some consistency there. So they needed a system that could handle that, and that is not typically anything that a WMS is prepared to handle. The Omnis platform and the module for easy bin management and the voice system understand how to do that already. If you want to learn more about this, I'll show you how to reach me in just a few minutes. The same platform and approach can also be applied to other technologies, as we said, robotics and next generation wearable. These systems, again, usually have their own controllers, and they need to be connected to your WMS and ERP. And so Omnis is working with the vendors in this sector to make those connections quick and cost effectively. Locus Robotics devices are shown here, and Omnis supports Locus implementations with our pre-built connectors. And more robotic supplier partnerships are coming this year. The next generation wearable space, as I said, is going to be a very exciting year. I've worked in this area for literally 20 years, and I can tell you I'm as excited as ever about what's coming, as Larry talked about, integrating these technologies together. Wearable, voice, robotics as a system and as a team, not as discrete technologies working independently. You need to watch this space. You can come visit Omnis at the Modex booth 7215. I'll show you in a moment to learn more about our work in this sector, and I'll personally be there to greet you. You can probably meet Larry over in the Honeywell booth. And so remember, at Omnis, we make it easy. That's our tagline. We make IT easy. Okay, when you're looking for someone to help you roll out technology or process changes, you have lots of choices and a wide variety of ways to get the job done. There are high-priced consultants like our CEO used to be. You get large systems integrators. You've got voice hardware VARs. There are WMS and ERP vendors that typically have some type of connectivity scheme or professional services teams that say they'll help you. So why should you turn to Omnisens for this? First of all, let's say you're going to put voice into your operation. You need to make sure you've got people that understand WMS and ERP technology in depth. They understand the voice technology in depth. They understand its challenges and how to implement it and how to make best use of it. And you need people that understand warehouse operations. Omnisens brings all that to you. In fact, the people you'd be dealing with in our sales team and in our support team have run major distribution centers for, say, Nike and Staples. We are voice experts. Many of our people have actually been part of the Honeywell voice team in the past and are now with Omnisens in the rolling these systems out. And as I mentioned, we wrote the book and understand WMS completely, particularly in the SAP environment, which is probably the most challenging one. We do things in a fast way, and that allows us to give you either low or no cost upfront advice and very low cost proof of concepts. So if you want to test voice before you roll it out, we can help you with that and keep the costs very, very low. We're giving you one platform, that Omnisens controller, that lets you do what you're doing today, RF guns, lets you add voice tomorrow, lets you add robotics next quarter. It's the same platform, the same interface, the same way that you control picking operations, and it takes the complexity. It makes IT easy for you to roll out. It's a certified solution, particularly in the SAP environment. Again, that means that there's stability and confidence for you when you're rolling a system out, that you're not going to have headaches later on. It can be deployed without extensive IT involvement. In fact, in some cases, we really had literally no IT involvement. And it's something that we can deploy remotely. I'll tell you about that in just a second. And it can be completed in weeks. Literally, typically 8 to 12 weeks from the point where we make the commitment to roll out, we've got systems up and running and operational. So that's literally how you get something done in 3 months, 12 weeks. And so the ROI is typically less than 9 months. That means that you can start a project, get your benefit, and get your payback all in the same fiscal year. And we're a true TSP, as we call it, a total solutions provider. We provide the upfront consulting. We do the design and architecture of your solution and understand how you want to connect things up and what you want to change. We'll install it, we'll configure it, we'll get it all up and running, and then we support it. And we work with best-of-breed partners like Honeywell. We looked at the voice technology out there, and again, I've been doing this for 20 years. I can tell you it's the best system out there by far, no question. It is a better solution, works better, faster, and has a broader range of flexibility than anything out there. We have 100% satisfied customers. We've never had a customer that stopped working with Omnisens. And the productivity gains that we will offer to you are guaranteed by Omnisens. So if we come into your warehouse and after doing the kind of walkthroughs and technology that we do to get to understand your operations and create your benchmark data, we will give you a written guarantee of the performance improvement you can expect. Might be 18, 20, 25%. And we'll put that in writing. If you don't get that productivity benefit, you don't pay for anything. Try to find another vendor at Modex that will offer that to you. Okay, so how do you learn more? It's easy. First thing is have a conversation with us. Typically in about a 20-minute conversation, we will understand your challenges, learn about your operations, and explain to you whether we think we can help you and how we think we can help participate here. If you want to move ahead from there, we'll schedule a live walkthrough on your site to better understand in a few hours exactly what you're trying to change, accomplish, and deliver, and we'll understand your physical environment more. We'll then come back quickly with a formal response on how we can help, the costs, and the rough schedule, and give you an indication of the guarantee that we think is possible. We've given you several easy ways to connect. The email, info@omnisens.com, will connect you to the right team. You can call us at the number that you see there. We're in the Atlanta area. That's our headquarters. Or if you're planning to go to Modex this year in just a few days, we are at Modex booth B7215. It's on the main aisle, right by the front door, right next to our partner, Honeywell. Okay, so you likely have some questions now about Omnisens or Honeywell voice solutions. So I'll turn that back over to Bob to handle questions.
Well, thank you, Barry, and also Larry for your part in this presentation, and thank you all for attending. I'd like to remind you that this is an interactive event. We're about to do a brief Q&A, so submit your questions. Now, if we don't get to all of your questions, we will send them over to our presenters later, and they can get back to you by email, or you can see them at Modex, as Barry just said. I'll be there as well. So guys, there was a lot here, a lot of great information. I'd like to revisit some of it, and we do have a couple of questions. First, for Barry, what exactly does SAP Certified really mean, and why is that of value to me?
That's a great question. Particularly in the SAP environment, there are a handful of software vendors that have their products pre-certified, pre-tested by SAP. So when we bring out new software, we supply it to SAP. It costs us money for that process for them to do the testing. They not only test it for stability to make sure that we haven't done anything that might violate a security process or protocol. They also then test it when they do an upgrade. So before they release a software patch or a security patch to the market, they have pre-tested the products that are SAP certified. Ours is one of the few that they do that. It's the only one in voice that is SAP certified. So what does that mean to you? That means that before their SAP gives you new code, you already know that they tested the Omnis platform and our modules to make sure that nothing's going to break. If you want to learn more about that or talk about your particular environment, again, reach out.
Barry, we have a question here about the Omnis platform, and I have to say, one of the reasons I found this presentation really interesting is, now that we're bringing in all these different technologies like robotics, or in some facilities, multiple robotics, one of the things I've been learning is that integration, whether it's integration with the WMS that then has to speak to all of those equipment, or integrating the various say robots from different robotic suppliers to create a real solution and not just little bits of automation is becoming a challenge. So I found your presentation really interesting from that perspective. So why should I use the Omnis platform instead of whatever connectivity solution my hardware vendor provides?
That's a great question as well. It's all about flexibility. It is all about speed as you try to continually improve your operations. If you treat each new technology, I use that phrase, like a snowflake, it's very unique. It's got its own interface. It's got its own way of connecting. That creates a huge overhead for you once you start bringing in 8 or 10 different technology providers. And you're trying to get them all to work in concert in your single warehouse operation. You also may have different technologies at play in different distribution centers or among your brands if you're, say, a major consumer packaged goods company. And so by learning and using the Omnis platform, you have a consistent way to interact with your system, to set up your picking strategy, to send up, make modifications to that, to deal with new, say, labor challenges. Maybe there's new regulations coming out of California, so-called AB 701 you have to deal with. If you're going to use the technology to allow you to adapt to those changes quickly, it would be nice if it was the same platform, no matter what I had to modify. And this whole idea of, I'm going to introduce voice today. I've got Android guns. Now I want to add a heads-up display. Or I've got a new advanced wearable product that I'm looking at, and I want to bring that in. I want to use this voice technology over here in this part of my picking operation, and I want to use the robotics and conveyors in the other area. And these systems are coming together. So we give you one architecture, one solution to look at. It takes all the complexity out of the back-end integration effort that we talked about and gives you the flexibility to move forward without having to learn somebody else's new architecture. That's a very cost-effective answer. We've had a number of folks that come and said, the speed with which I can implement things gives me more than enough payback to allow the purchase of the Omnis platform and the monthly SaaS fees that would go along with that. So if you want to learn more about that, come on over and have a chat with us, or let's get a video conversation going.
Thanks, Barry. I've got one more here for Barry, and then the last question after this one will go to Larry. So Barry, how do you develop integration modules for systems that are brand new or that you haven't encountered before? And then how long does that take?
Okay. We've got a large team in India that is doing our integration work. That is their specialty, and that team has been built up, again, starting with our custom consulting that we did for years at Omnisons. The company's been around about 10 years, and has now shifted to providing these pre-built modules as we go forward. So the first thing that we do is align with the technology providers that we're going to support. We make choices about which technology vendors we think are best of breed, like Honeywell, and we will concentrate on their architectures, understand it, and then very quickly, literally in weeks or sometimes a few months, we can develop the custom interface for whatever that new controller is. We've done that a number of times, and so if you brought us a brand new platform we had not seen before, generally we can provide the connectivity strategy for that within several weeks or just a handful of months.
Larry, let's bring you back in here for the last question. We saved the best for last. How long does it take to train the Honeywell voice system to recognize accents and speaking styles? You know, that's important given how multi-cultural or multi-ethnic distribution centers have become.
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for raising that, because, you know, as we install, you know, voice throughout the world, you know, we find that in a lot of cases, the workers in a distribution center don't necessarily speak the native language of the country they're in, right? So when they do, it's very heavily accented or with dialects, and in a lot of cases, they want to revert actually to their native language, which might not be the language of the country. But bottom line is this. As I mentioned in the presentation, we've moved now to a speech recognizer that is speaker independent, meaning that you can basically pick it up and just start using it without training. And that goes for us globally, you know, 40 plus languages, you know, that we support with this methodology. And what you're going to find is as we move forward with that recognition technology, it will continue to evolve. It will, in fact, learn how a specific users speak to it, and it will adapt to individually to each user once they pick it up and begin to start using it. In fact, that term picking it up, we call our speaker independent recognizer pick up and go, which is exactly, you know, the type of action we wanted. But in severe situations, we can certainly revert. We're offering both of our recognizers. We'll also offer the trainable recognizer. So, you know, if there's a country we're in and a language that is not perhaps covered with our pick up and go recognizer, we can use our speaker dependent recognizer and have folks train it. And again, that takes typically 15 minutes or so to create those voice patterns, but it will be adaptable for 100% of the folks on the face of the planet Earth. So thanks for that question.
Great. Well, thanks, Larry. That's all the time we have for today. I want to thank Barry Espiner and Larry Sweeney for today's presentation. And I want to encourage everyone to download the presentation in the resource box. Just click on the resource icon. And again, remember, if we didn't get to all of your questions, we will forward them to Barry and Larry later. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Omnisons, who made this possible. And finally, be sure to fill out that survey. For Modern Materials Handling, I'm Bob Trebilcock.